machinery and equipment without
Hello and welcome to Business Today Television from the TV Today Network studios here in Central Delhi, where we are decoding the budget with the budget makers. And joining me are two of the most important players when it came to the overall taxation changes, both on the direct and indirect tax side. To my left, Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, the chairman of the Central Board of Taxation, that you have done, because that seems to have been the only spoiler for some time. The rest, the budget seems to have been a please all for various sections.
So basically, if you see that capital gains, we can break it into two components. One is where the rates have gone up from 10% to 12.5%,
Yep.
which is basically relating to listed the equity or units. And the other is where the effective rates have come down. That is from 20% to 12.5%. So
Right.
there are two category of capital gains. So first category, if we see where the rates have gone up from 10% to 12.5%, the statistics data reveals that this capital gains was actually more, it was concentrated and confined to the higher segment
Okay.
of people, and therefore it was felt that perhaps there is to give more benefit to the people in the lower category, this could be a case where we could actually enhance the rates. So far as the second category is concerned, where the property or gold or other assets is concerned, the rates have been brought down. And if you compare the indexation, because naturally the concern of the people could be that indexation has been actually taken away.
Yes.
But the rates of the assets that have gone up in the last about 8-10 years, or maybe 3 years also, the indexation actually offsets. This the decrease in the rate offsets the increase in the due to indexation. So the new regime without indexation actually is more beneficial to the taxpayer if you compare actually the assets, the value of the assets that have gone up. To give you an example, suppose a asset, one is holding the asset for 10 years, and if the asset value as such has increased by only 3 or 3.5 times in those 10 years, the new tax regime would be beneficial, and it would be the taxpayer would be saving tax in respect of that transaction. So therefore the new regime without indexation would be more beneficial to the taxpayer, keeping in view the increase and the value of the assets that have increased over a period of time.
Mr. Agarwal, I have 2-3 follow-up quick points, but I'll turn to the indirect part. And at every post-budget conversations ever since GST was introduced, the real point that we have to discuss is customs duty. Explain to our viewers the logic behind some of the import duty tariff changes that you've done. For example, gold, and we saw gold company stocks go up, but that would not have been the intent of budget makers. What is the driving philosophy behind the indirect tax changes?
I would like to mention that if you see the budget proposals and the way the customs duties have been rigid, there is a clear pattern. And this is to give the impetus to the domestic manufacturing, strengthening and diversification of supply chains, and making the exports from India more competitive in international markets. And in addition to that, there are certain items on which there is onslaught of very cheap imports. There some corrections have been made, and likewise on certain items there was duty inversion that has been corrected. And to elaborate on that, I would like to mention that 25 critical minerals which are not mined in India, there the rate of duty has been reduced to nil. This is to encourage the processing of such minerals in the country and their further use in very important sectors like renewable energy, high-end electronics, defense and space sector. So there the duty has been reduced to nil, and there are certain minerals where there is some production in the country, there the rates have not been brought down to nil but kept at a lower level to encourage the further processing in the country. In addition to that, I would like to mention about the items which are exported, like shrimp, frozen shrimp, which is exported from India. There's a huge exports from India. There the shrimp feed rate of duty has been reduced from 15% to 5%. Likewise, the inputs which are used for making that feed have been reduced to nil. This is all to encourage the exports of shrimp from India.
Okay.
And there are items like MDI, which is used in manufacture of spandex yarn. There was duty inversion. On MDI, the rate of duty was 7.5%, whereas on spandex yarn, it was 5%. So there the rate of duty has been brought down to 5% to correct that inversion. And I would also like to mention that there are items like mobile phones and certain parts of mobile like mobile PCBA and mobile charger. In case of mobile manufacturing sector, a PMP scheme was brought and the rate of duties were increased gradually so that manufacturing, local manufacturing and deepening that value chain. So it is very important that we deepen the value chain so that it is not only the assembling of mobile phones happen in the country, but the PCBA, which is having some value, something like 55% of in the mobile phone. So those are being manufactured in India. So we are seeing that PCBA imports in India are gradually coming down, and therefore the rate of duty has also been reduced on PCBA. Earlier it was 20%, now it has been brought down to 15%. So the industry has taken firm roots in the country, and therefore it is time to reduce the duty so that industry remain competitive. And I would also like to mention that in last financial year, the production of mobile phones in the country was to the tune of 4.1 lakh crores, and the exports from India was to the tune of 1.2 lakh crores.
Right. So the import duty side is very well explained, but turning back to the CBDT, one of the major disappointments, and this is for those who trade in the stock markets, is the fact that they will now have to pay double the tax for their F&O trades via the increase in STT. Obviously, is this a revenue mobilization step, or was there some larger design behind it?
No, there's, since the volumes are going up, so therefore this was an opportunity, you could say that yes, and there was a strong case that we garner more revenue, basically because one has to make a balance, you see, between the two. On one hand, yes, we have to actually tweak the slab rates to actually give more benefit to larger section of people, and this was one area which was thought that had a potential to actually garner more revenue.
Sir, don't you think that this is distortionary? Capital gains wasn't there, then it was brought back, STT was a replacement. Now we have a situation where you have both capital gains and STT. I mean, let's forget this specific thing. From a tax policy perspective, are you comfortable with this kind of double arrangement?
Well, I can say that at present this is the policy.
Well,
I would not like
what
to
will
comment on
change, because the finance minister has also announced something very important, and in all of these headlines that has been missed. We couldn't get a direct taxes code, but some elements of that were implemented. What is the intent behind this review, and what is likely after 6 months?
Yes, so basically now the thought is that we should actually look at the act in its present form and see how can we actually make it simpler for the people to actually understand, and let us make it more user friendly. Can we actually optimize the number of sections, the number of provisions? That is another thought, and the way that we can present it, because over a period of time the act has become really bulky, and there is a concern that maybe the taxpayers are finding it difficult to.
So will it borrow from the earlier drafts within
So
the
yes, we will
CBDT?
take inspiration. We will take inspiration. There are 3 attempts that have been made: 2009, 2012, and 2019. We will take inspiration from that also, and then we will see that how can we actually best present the act and make the language simple and easy to comprehend.
I turn to you because earlier when we didn't have GST, we could ask a lot of questions with regard to other elements. But allow me to ask you a question which is beyond this budget, which is GST. Because again, if you see today's commentary after the budget, people are saying GST mein kab rahat milegi. So what is the likely roadmap there? Because we know that you and the rest of the department and the states are also looking at fine-tuning it further, the overall GST architecture.
In fact, regarding GST, I would like to mention that for GST, the rate rationalization is not a one-time exercise in a year.
Correct.
So the proposals go to GST Council, and GST Council, they keep on making their recommendations, and accordingly the correction happens. But on a larger issue, that on rate rationalization, there is already a GOM, Group of Ministers committee, which has been set up by GST Council to look into the rates and the inversions and the sectors where some kind of uniformity in the rates have to be brought, so that the classification disputes can be eliminated. So that committee is looking into all these rates, and we expect that the report will be submitted and will be presented before the GST Council, and then the rationalization of rates will happen, and wherever there is inversion, some way it will be corrected.
That's very, very important, because in the run-up to the budget, although it was not related, there were a lot of demands when it comes to health insurance and the impact there. As we wind down this conversation, I want to turn to you with regard to the new tax regime, a new slab architecture which has been dissected well. A couple of questions. Salaried employees in the new tax regime will save up to 17,500. I have had many colleagues in office who are first-time home buyers, for example, 5, 7, 10 years in the job, and they are asking out of genuine sort of curiosity that what happens, because at certain levels of house purchases, the exemption that was granted was significant, 80C also. So how do they square off 17,500 versus the dream of being a house owner?
You see, 80C and all the deductions that used to happen, that has been already incorporated in the new tax regime. So therefore that 80C issues, and that has been taken care of here, and still the scheme, the new scheme is beneficial. Right? The second is that when it comes to capital gains, so capital gains.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. So what you are saying, for the sake of simplicity, is that with the new slab structure and therefore the gradation, the benefits that could accrue there are now available through this mechanism.
Yes, so it's already implicit in this new tax structure that is there. So therefore, so that is factored in. The second is that the overall, when you are actually selling the asset, then actually it's a saving on the tax because of the new tax structure on capital gains that has been now proposed. So that is yet another, you see, a benefit to the taxpayer.
Okay.
And then of course there are provisions of 54F or 54, where if on a sale of an asset you take another asset, that offset would be there.
Okay. One final question to you, sir. Can we ever hope that the GST monthly data will come back? Will it be released to the public?
Earlier we used to issue a press release, but we thought that because the figures are already there in the public domain, so the figures, since the figures are in the public domain, we don't feel any requirement of issuing the press release, because now 7 years have passed and GST has taken roots. So that is the reason for discontinuing with the press release.
Many
which we
economists
used to-
have on record told me that it is data denial. What would you tell them?
I don't think that we look into it, discontinuation of press release as a data denial, because whenever somebody wants some collection figures, that is made available to them.
Okay. Viewers, I have CBDT on my right and CBIC on my left, and I'm stuck in the middle and I've run out of time. Lots more questions, but I will let both these gentlemen go because they have had a very heavy day and there are many more interviews for them to conduct still. Thank you very much, sirs, for your time with us today. With that, it's a wrap. With the taxmen behind Budget 2024, we'll be back with more. Do stay tuned in.